Okay. Okay, coming to our topic, we are discussing about parasitism. Okay, and we have discussed what is meant by parasitism, how it is okay observed in case of animals and plants, and we have okay, and now we are coming with the types of parasites, and we have discussed about ectoparasite. That means the organisms which live on the external surface of the organism and parasitize on the organisms. Such ones we are calling it as ectoparasites. And the female mosquito, which is not considered a parasite, although it needs our blood for reproduction. Why? Because as it is required for its physiological activity, like development of ovaries. So that's why it is not considered as the, okay, it is taking as a food, but not parasitic. It is not causing any harm to the vertebrate organism directly. Simply, it is collecting the blood, and that blood is required for its development of reproductive organs. That's why we are taking into consideration the female mosquito as not a parasite. Okay. And next, in contrast, okay, the endoparasites. What are endoparasites? Means endoparasites are those that live inside the host body at different sites. That means if the organism is living inside the host body, okay, if the organism, if the parasite, or okay, if the parasite is living inside the body of the host, then okay, at different organs, because every parasite is not only host specific, it is also tissue specific. It is also tissue specific. That means some parasites will affect certain organs that are present in the body. Okay, that is so endoparasites are those that live inside the host body at different sites. Okay, some will live in liver, kidney, lungs, red blood cells, etc. Okay. So when you observe here, okay, in contrast, endoparasites are those that live inside the host body at different sites like liver, kidney, lungs, red blood cells, etc. The life cycles of endoparasites are more complex because of their extreme specialization. Okay, when you observe the life cycle, when compared to the ectoparasite, the life cycle of endoparasites are more complex because of their extreme specialization. Because of their extreme specialization. Okay, there is their morphology. Okay, why? Because okay, they are specified. Okay, they are specified to live in special organs. Okay, some special, okay, special organ, that means they will present, okay, they will affect only certain organs that are present. So to okay, to live inside those cells, the parasites have evolved different mechanisms. Okay, different mechanism. That's why the life cycle of endoparasites is more complex. Okay, that is and next, their morphological and anatomical features are greatly simplified while emphasizing their reproductive potential. Okay, when you observe these organisms, these endoparasites, in the endoparasites, the anatomical and the the morphological anatomical features are reduced. They have got the simple morphological features and simple anatomical features, but they have got a well developed reproductive system or reproductive potential. Okay, the endoparasites. Okay, that is so that's okay, so that they can survive and they can increase the chances to enter into a new host by increasing their reproductive potential. For example, if you take the Ascaris lumbricoids, you might know it. Okay, Ascaris lumbricoids, which is commonly called as roundworm. Okay, this Ascaris lumbricoids will produce around 2 lakhs of eggs, 2 lakhs of eggs, which will pass along with the undigested food material. Okay, and they to increase the chance of entry into a new host. That's why they produce such a huge number. That means here their reproductive potential is very much increased. Okay, that is. And next, another method of parasitism, that is brood parasitism. That means for brooding. You know what is meant by brooding? Anyone knows what is meant by brooding?
No, sir.
Okay, brooding means hatching, my eggs hatching, hatching of eggs,
Yes,
hatching
sir.
of eggs. We call it as brooding. So here, brood parasitism in birds. That means some birds will undergo brood parasitism. That means they do not brood or they do not hatch their own eggs. Instead of that, they will lay the eggs in the nest of other birds, and the other bird will undergo brooding or hatching, and the young ones are emerged out. Okay, such a mechanism we are calling it as a brood parasitism. You can see here. Brood parasitism in birds is a fascinating example of parasitism in which the parasitic bird lays its eggs in the nest of its host and lets the host incubate them. Okay, that means the hatching of the eggs will be done, or the incubation of the eggs will be done by another bird. Okay, that means as the parasitic bird is very lazy in the construction of a nest, so they do not have any proper nest to lay the eggs. So what they will do, some other bird might be already constructed the next nest and started laying of eggs. Okay, and in that nest, okay, whatever the eggs that this parasitic bird is laying, those are placed in the nest of that host bird, which will incubate. Okay, that is what we can see here. Okay, brood paras. Okay, that is it. Okay, here what happened means, okay, before this brood parasitism has developed by that bird, the eggs of the host bird and the parasitic bird are a little bit different. So in course of evolution, that parasitic bird has undergone evolution and started producing the eggs similar to that of the host bird, so that the host bird is unable to recognize which is its own egg and which is the parasitic egg. Okay, that is during the course of evolution, the eggs of the parasitic bird have evolved to resemble the host egg in size and color to reduce the chance of a host bird detecting the foreign eggs and ejecting them from the nest. That means if any other birds, if there is any difference in the color or size or shape of the egg, then what happens, automatically the host bird will detect these eggs are not of mine, and simply it will remove the eggs from its nest, or throws the eggs from its nest. So to reduce that one, the parasitic bird also undergone certain evolution in the laying of eggs in such a way that it lays the eggs each resemble that of the host egg, so that okay, the chances of detection is reduced. As a result, the hatching of the eggs will be understood. Only after the birth of the eggs, that means after the eggs has been incubated, after the incubation, the eggs, okay, the emergence of the new birds will be taken place. Then after the new bird has been obtained from the egg, from then onwards only they came to understand, okay, this is not my bird. Up to that, it will, okay, till it is hatched. Okay, when it is hatching, it is unable to differentiate. Okay, we can see here, one example is given. Try to follow the movements of the cuckoo, that is quail, and the crow in your neighborhood park during the breeding season, that is spring to summer, and watch brood parasitism in action. So where we'll observe this brood parasitism means the brood parasitism is observed among quail and the crow. Here the crow, okay, crow is the host and quail is the parasitic bird. The quail will lay its birds, its eggs in the nest of the crow, which are similar to that of the bird's eggs. Okay, as a result, it is less detected and they are hatched by the crow. After the hatching only, they came to understand this bird is not mine. Then it will pushes the bird out of the nest, which can grow as a without the any proper care. Okay, that is an example for brood parasitism. Anybody is having any doubt here?
No, sir.
Okay, and next concept, that is a commensalism. Okay, commensalism. What is this commensalism means? It is the interaction in which one species benefits and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. That means one is plus and one is zero. Because one is getting benefited, but the other is neither benefited nor harmed. So we say it as zero, neutral. Okay, that means because here the interaction between two different species in which one is getting benefited and the other is neither benefited nor harmed. So a example is an orchid growing as an epiphyte on a mango branch and barnacles growing on the back of a whale benefit, while neither the mango tree nor the whale derives any apparent benefit. Okay, when you observe the orchid, these orchids, okay, these orchids are small plants which will grow on the branches of large trees. That's why the okay, such plants which will grow on the branches of other plants, we are calling it as epiphytes. We'll call it as epiphytes. Orchid is a type of epiphyte. One of the type of, okay, one of the epiphytes. So while it is growing on the branch of a large tree like mango, okay, only it is for a attachment for the source of light, because in the on the lower, okay, on the ground it is not getting sufficient light because of the shade of the plant. So it is growing on the branches so that it will get some more, okay, some light. That's why it is growing on the branch of a large trees. So while growing on a branch, this orchid is getting benefited because it is getting light and it is also getting water and minerals from the mango plant. But mango plant is not getting any benefit. Neither it is benefited nor harmed. That's why we are calling this epiphyte, okay, this orchid as epiphyte. And at the same time, the barnacle, which belongs to the group of echinoderms, okay, an animal belonging to the echinoderm commonly called as barnacle. Okay, when you observe these barnacles grow on the back of the whale. As a result, what happens? Okay, here the barnacle is getting benefited, but the whale is neither benefited nor harmed. Why? Because the barnacle, okay, as the whale is a barnacle is stationary, but the whale is able to move. So it will take the barnacle to different places where they can get the food material. Whatever the food material that is left by this whale, that can be taken by this barnacle. So here the barnacle is getting benefited, but the whale is neither benefited nor harmed. That's why this association between a whale and a barnacle, we are calling it as a commensalism. And next, in the association between egret and a grazing cattle. Grazing cattle. That means when you observe, you can see here, okay, the cattle will graze on the crop fields. When it is grazing on the crop fields, what it will pull the plants from the soil. That means it turn over the soil. So what happens when it turn over the soil? Whatever the insects that are present inside the soil, they are exposed, on which these egret birds are feeding. That's why we can see whenever any animals are grazing, around those animals we can find some birds moving also. Here, because of the grazing, okay, because of that egret, the grazing animal is not getting any benefit. But because of that grazing process, okay, because of the turnover of the soil, but the egrets are getting benefited. That is what we call it as okay, that's why we are taking this one also as a commensalism. That is the cattle egret and grazing cattle in close association, a sight you are mostly likely to catch if you live in a farmed rural areas, is a classic example of commensalism. Why? Because here the egret is getting benefited, whereas the grazing animal is not neither getting benefited nor harmed. So the egrets always forage close to where the cattle are grazing, because the cattle, as they move, stir up and flush out insects from the vegetation that otherwise might be difficult for the egret to find and catch. Okay, so that means the egrets every time, okay, it can't able to dig all over the soil, no, where the actually the insects are present, it doesn't know. But whenever this grazing animals are pulling the soil out, the insects are coming out, so that they can visualize the insects and on which this egrets can feed. Okay. And next, another example of commensalism is the interaction between sea anemone and the stinging tentacles. Okay, sea anemone that has stinging tentacles and the clownfish that lives among them. Okay, when you observe the clownfish, what this clownfish will do means, the clownfish places the sea anemone on the upper surface of this clownfish. The clownfish will place the sea anemone on the upper surface of this fish. Okay, that is here what happens means here the clone fish is getting benefited, whereas the sea anemone is neither benefited nor harmed. Why? Because the fish gets protection from the predators which stay away from the stinging tentacles. But the sea anemone does not appear to derive any benefit by hosting the clone fish. So here the clone fish is getting benefited because whenever the sea anemones are present on the upper surface of this clownfish, the clownfish is getting protection from the predator fishes. Why? Because they are kept away from this stinging cells that are present with the sea anemone. But the sea anemone is neither getting benefited nor harmed. Neither benefited nor harmed. Sea anemone don't have poison, ma, but they have got some specialized cells called stinging cells, which are having some spiny like structures. Okay, usually they are in coiled position, but when the sea anemone get irritated, this coiled structures will uncoil and comes out, and they works like a spines and okay, and frightens the prey, so predator organisms. Because of that sting cells that are present in the tentacles of this sea anemone. Not only in sea anemone, in okay, in all the nidarians will find this stinging cells. That is hydra, jellyfishes. In all this, will find the stinging cells. Okay. Okay, and the next one is mutualism. Okay, mutualism. Mutualism is a this interaction confirms benefits on both the interacting spaces. That means it is an interaction between two different species in which both the organisms are getting benefited. Such a association we are calling it as a mutualism. Okay, we have discussed some related to this in +1, the like in biological classification. While we are discussing about lichens, we come across this one. Lichen, which is a association between algae and fungi. The algae lives in the cells of a fungi. It's a good example for mutualism. Okay, why? Because when these algae and fungi which are living in association, when they are separated, both the organisms will die. Such an intimate association is present between the algae and fungi in a lichen. Okay, so here we can see lichens represent an intimate mutualistic relationship. Okay, lichens represent an intimate mutualistic relationship between a fungus and a photosynthesizing algae or cyanobacteria. Okay, that is called a lichen, and we can also observe with the mycorrhiza. Similarly, the mycorrhiza means, anyone knows what is mycorrhiza? Already we are discussed in +1 also. Okay, mycorrhizal association. Mycorrhiza. Myco means fungi, rhiza means root. It is the symbiotic association between the fungi and the roots of higher plants. Okay, similarly, the mycorrhiza or association between fungi and the roots of higher plants. Okay, here in this association, both